Good Monday morning of the 9th week in Ordinary Times. Right now I'm at Bull Shoals Lake, and so I'm a bit late in getting these videos made. Fortunately, I was reminded of it. Yeah, I got here on Wednesday night, and normally I do the videos on Thursday, but I was busy trying to get my bass boat to behave itself. I've had nothing but troubles with my boat this week. You know what they say about, no, I don't want to say this, too sexist, but there is a sexist remark that's saying if a boat is like a woman, that they actually say these things because it's feminine, and if she doesn't break your heart, you never loved her. Well, my boat is, this week has been breaking my heart, so it must mean I love her a lot. Whatever. Anyway, please don't be offended, okay? I'm just thinking, it's been frustrating the last 2 or 3 days. I've been very distracted. Instead of out fishing, I'm trying to get my boat working, and it hasn't been. Anyway, our first reading today is the letter of St. Peter, his second letter of St. Peter. This is really a good letter. Peter's not famous for his letters. He's just not. But once in a while, he writes a whopper, and this is a good one, okay? He says, "Beloved, may grace and peace be yours in abundance through knowledge of God and of Jesus our Lord." Knowledge means not just cognitive knowledge, but it means an intimacy of the heart, a loving knowledge, as a spousal love. You know your spouse, you love your spouse, and that's this. Well, he's not referring to spousal love here. It's that kind of intimacy of the heart, the knowledge that bonds us together. You see, it's not just him figuring out 2 and 2 are 4. See? His divine power has bestowed on us everything that makes for life and devotion through the knowledge of him. See that word again? Through the knowledge of him who called us by his own glory and power. Through these he has bestowed on us the precious and very great promises, so that through them you may come to share in the divine nature, after escaping from the corruption that is in the world because of evil desires. For this very reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, self-control with endurance, endurance with devotion, devotion with mutual affection with love. That's a great final text, that final paragraph. In my 2 cents, where it's all it is, just 2 cents, you see, by the time Peter is writing this thing, if he wrote it or his disciples wrote it, to me, I hear the echo of the Greek world, because you see the emphasis on virtue. You see what he says at the end? For this reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue. See? Virtue with knowledge. That's Plato. That's Aristotle, see? Knowledge with self-control with endurance, perseverance, you see? Endurance with devotion. Those are virtues, you see? And devotion with mutual affection with love. It complements the Greeks, it takes it further. Much further than Plato. Plato thought you needed the knowledge. Here you need not only knowledge of the good, but you have to love the good, and it's personal. See? In a way, I guess this is a beautiful text by St. Peter or by his disciple, whoever wrote it. But you can see the penetration of the gospel into the Hellenic world and the Greek world, in which now the gospel, the faith, is complemented by the wisdom of the Greeks, the virtues. And that's what we teach. We teach that in our Catholic schools. We not only teach the gospel, we teach the virtues. We teach morality and virtue. You see, what it is to live a good life, a life good and rewarding in the deepest sense of the word. I think that's really the strong suit, in my opinion, of Catholic higher education, especially university, college education, because we're not held back in teaching virtue and Christian virtue, because we're not held back by the secular state. And you could even say, Supreme Court rulings, we teach what we see as to be true. We're not held back by law. And hence we can teach virtue with a depth and power that's difficult to do in a secular environment because of the laws. I don't know how else to put it. So we teach explicitly Christian virtue, how to live the Christian life. And one of the virtues necessary for living it robustly, you see? It's not just a matter of Aristotle. It's Aristotle with, as it were, the apostles. See, when he says at the end, devotion with mutual affection with love. For love one another as I have loved you. Christ is crucified for us. And when he throws, St. Peter uses that term love, he has a love one another. He has very much Christ in mind and Christ's love, the sacrificial love. That's hard to come by in pure philosophical terms, because you have to believe in the death and resurrection of Christ to embrace self-sacrifice with such confident robustness. I think I'm right about that. Well, and yet you see people without faith sacrificing their lives in war, military soon. Maybe I'm overstating the necessity of virtue and faith. Not virtue, but faith. Since you can have virtue, the virtue of courage doesn't require faith. So I may be very, very inconsistent in what I'm saying right now. I don't know. But I do think ultimately, the virtues need and are deeply, profoundly, and radically enriched by the faith. They are transformed from human excellence into, as it were, heroic excellence, Christian ethics, Christian excellence, in imitation of Christ, not in imitation of the virtues of the Greeks, but now the imitation of Christ himself, who was crucified out of love for us. I'm not doing a very good job, I'm afraid, today in trying to articulate this. But what I do realize, and what I know very much, is virtue is not enough. It's just not enough. It needs to be transformed by the heroic self-sacrifice of the cross to really, really bring about life. And I mean that. I'm grateful that I'm a Christian, because I think in my Christian faith, I feel the call of the cross, but also its consolation. That living life robustly requires self-sacrifice. And in self-sacrifice, there has to be more than just the immediate return. There has to be something eternally valuable, eternally special about it, as we share in the fullness of Christ's death and resurrection. St. Paul said, I fill up those things wanting in the suffering of Christ. I believe that. I believe that very, very profoundly. That's the truth.